Welcome guys to the video. So let's talk about the importance of reputation building for your career and for your business. One of the things I've been preaching for a couple of years on my larger channel, I'll put the link below. I have 150,000 subs on that channel, which is more code and programming oriented. I've been teaching that reputation is a huge part of establishing yourself in your career, and it's especially the case with a business, whether you go into freelancing, you start your own SaaS or a coffee shop. But reputation, as some people call it, the brand of your business, is a huge part of the perceived value of your product, the perceived value of your service. So you have to build and then protect your reputation in a very profound way. You have to really be sure that you're doing a good job when it comes to that. So why is reputation so important as an employee? Well, you've heard of the stories where people are looking at candidates, they check out their resume, and then they go check to see what's going on social media. And famously, you get people who lost a job or got booted from a job because they did silly things on Facebook or on Twitter. So you have to be very, very careful. Like the most famous example is, I think, that the writer and director for Guardians of the Galaxy got booted from a movie, from directing and writing a movie that he made a super success because of something he said 10 years ago on Twitter. So rule number one, be very, very careful about what you say on social media as an individual, as personal, especially your business. So reputation is huge. So if a Hollywood director and writer who has a super successful film can get booted because of a joke he made, it was a pretty bad joke, but if he can get booted 10 years after the fact, be very careful. You have to protect and nourish your reputation like you would a precious plant or your pet dog or something. So be very careful about that. Protect your reputation. Build your reputation. So how do you build your reputation in the business world? Well, as an employee, first of all, you build your reputation, especially if you're tech. Put up a website. Start detailing the projects you work on, the clients you work with, what skills you have, what interests you have. You have to put up this information out there so people understand where your talents are and what you can do. And people will discern a lot about you based on the quality of your presentation. So even if you're a back-end developer, when you put up your website as a back-end developer, make sure that website looks good. If you're not a designer, just use a template, or maybe hire a guy to lay out something nice and stay within that template. Meaning, don't try to style things. If you're not a designer, don't try to style things because you're just going to do a bad job at it. Just like somebody who's not a coder, who's not going to write a very good app, his first app or her first app, right? Just not an insult, just, you got to learn. So if you're not a designer type, get a nice template, put it up, stay within the confines of that template. If you're not secure about that, find a friend who's good with design. Make sure they configure everything. Again, this may sound weird, but people will judge you based on, especially if you're getting in the tech world, and anything really, they're going to judge you based on how nice your website looks. So you could build your own, the template, you could use a Wix or something like that, whatever is appropriate for your needs. But it's important that it looks good and it's well written, no spelling errors, properly formatted. I know this sounds silly to mention this, but trust me, a lot of people don't do this. Reputation is built not just from your online exploits, right? So you have your website as an employee, especially as a business. Then you got to have a social media presence. Make sure your social media is clean and neat and tidy, if you will. Don't be controversial if you want to build your business, if you want to become somebody people want to work with or want to hire. Very important. As I mentioned in videos, again, I'll dovetail into this. You also have to have good writing and communication skills. This all goes to building reputation. If people like you, you're clear, concise, easily understood, much more likely you're going to be perceived well. It's going to help with your reputation. And believe it or not, even the clothes you wear, the way you comb your hair, or me, you have no hair, you shave your hair, don't smell. It's like your personal hygiene, how you conduct yourself, back straight, this kind of stuff. The brain will automatically form opinions about you based on all of these things. You gotta present yourself in a way in which you command respect and trust, and even the way you dress, your personal grooming plays a major role in this. Not my opinion, all the studies show this. So be sure you dress well, cleanly, don't smell. So when you go in for that interview, you go for that first contract, that first freelance project, etc., make sure you present well. Back in the 1990s, I think it was 97, when I landed my very first big contract. I had little contracts prior to that, but it was a big contract. And I got this big contract where I was doing all the websites and apps for this umbrella company that had like 6 or 7 smaller companies under it. So I was making great money. This is the original Studio Web when it was a web design studio and development. And I remember about a year into the contract, the guy who made the final decision, pulled the trigger on me. He said the reason he gave me the contract ultimately was not because he looked at my code and said, "Ooh, you do good code." See, that's the thing. If you're going out there, as a freelancer, 99% of them have no idea what's clean code, what's not clean code. So they're going to judge you based on things like how you dress, how well you speak, how nice your site looks. And he came to my office and he saw how neat and clean the office was. That's what he told me. He said that was the deciding factor for him. He said, wow, the office is well organized, it's clean, everything, it's really nice furniture, everything's cool. So he figured if he's got a nice office, his code's going to be good too. Which is not too far from the truth, because when I am an obsessive compulsive, so everything had to be. So yeah, there you go. So it goes to show, I landed my biggest contract ever at that time because I had a nice, neat office. This all lends itself to an expectation, your reputation, etc. How you speak. Don't swear all the time. Use proper language, etc. I know it sounds like I'm sounding like a square here, perhaps, but this is just part of the game. It's part of the game. As we're going to go from jobs to, like if you're working for a large organization, one of the things they don't want is controversy. Because people who work for larger organizations, they just want to run the business. They don't have to deal with headaches. So they're going to be looking for people who are not controversial. I'm not saying that's necessarily a good thing, because that's why you don't see disruption in bigger companies. Because in the bigger companies, they don't want anybody to rock the boat. So no boat rockers in there. You need boat rockers to innovate. So that's why the innovation typically comes from the new companies, not the big established companies, because it's the culture that they bring. But if you want to go work for a very large company, you got to make sure your reputation is spot on, spotless. You go in there, better dress good, you better not smell. And how you speak and conduct yourself, calm, relaxed, confident, not arrogant, not controversial, no swearing and stuff. Trust me. Doing that is going to go much further for you in terms of landing the high-paying job than learning some other framework if you want to be a coder. But these basic principles of reputation building and nurturing apply to all industries, all technologies, all businesses, etc. So let's jump into freelance. Well, freelance reputation, they're going to be looking at your website, all these things I talked about, your social media presence becomes supremely important. In the freelance game, whether you have a degree, whether you have certifications is much less important. Although it helps, but it's less important. Getting a job, degree, certifications, more important than freelancing, but that's important depending on where you work. Large organizations, you're probably going to need a degree unless you have a lot of experience. But generally speaking, the mood is changing. They want to see practical skills, practical experience, more than pieces of paper. Within the tech space itself, of course, you're going to be a doctor, a lawyer, etc., a dentist. Of course, you got to get a degree. But again, it's all part of having the degree or not adds or subtracts from your reputation. Having certifications adds or subtracts from your reputation. You see where I'm going with all that. Now, if you have a business like Studio Web, now our reputation is it's a lot of word of mouth with all the different schools. And I have to admit, we've been in the development. I've been bootstrapping the Studio Web app for years now. It's one of my businesses. So I started recently focusing on reputation building. So just recently, going back a few months, I'm starting to get reviews. So I have like 80-something reviews on Google Business, which I think is important to do. I'm at the new iteration of the Studio Web website, the branding site. We're going to put a bunch of logos of the schools that use us, at least some of the schools anyway. And so we're now working on reputation building. Very important. Now, I'll have to say, like on my other channel, my co-channel, where I have 150,000 subs or more, I built that thing up more or less as a hobby. But what I found was when I got over 100,000 subs, it really helped with my reputation. And people started seeing, okay, this guy's legitimate. Look how many people are willing to subscribe to him. And then they watch the content and they go, oh, yeah, there it is. You see, you may be the smartest person in the world, but most people will not be able to recognize that unless they get to know you or they check out your work. But if you have a really strong reputation that represents that on social, your work, your background, how you present yourself, et cetera, they'll be able to discern that much more quickly than they would otherwise. So there you go. I say that reputation is one of the most valuable assets you can develop in your life. I talk about that. First thing you got to develop is skills. Technical, I think even if you're not going to be technical, you're not going to be a programmer, you should learn a little bit because it's like a superpower to have. It's been a superpower for me in my career. Then you got to develop great communication skills, reading, writing, talking, listening. You got to have good presentation skills, like, I know it sounds silly, to dress well, good hygiene, don't smell. Then you got to start building, and this is all part of building reputation, right? This is, reputation's the next one, excuse me. So you got hard technical skills, communication skills, reputation. These are the three most valuable assets you can possibly have. It's more valuable than owning stocks and real estate. Why? Because you can lose your real estate, you can lose your stocks, but if you have skills and reputation, and you have communication skills, tech skills, and reputation, you can rebuild fortunes. There are famous guys out there. There's this billionaire, I think his name was T. Boone Pickens, and he was a billionaire, self-made. He lost all his money in his 60s. Woo! But because he had skills, reputation, and contacts as a result of his skills and reputation and his background, he became a billionaire again. Can you imagine that? At 65, you lose all your money, and all of a sudden you go back, bing, boom, bang, bing, bing, boom, Bob's your uncle, you're a billionaire again. That's amazing, right? That shows you skills, reputation are more important than owning houses and real estate, and other real estate and stocks and bonds, because those can go. So that's why I tell you, when you're young, if you're watching this, you're in your teens, your 20s, your 30s, 40s, any age really, but the younger the better. Let's be honest. Old guys like me, you have to, I have to be honest. Say if you're 19 years old, that's money in the bank, because you got a long runway to make a lot of money. If you're 25, 30, you got a long runway to make a lot of money. Even in your 40s, 50s, you can make a lot of money. And the first step is to build those three hugely important assets. That includes tech skills, communication skills, reputation. This is the whole point of this video, is about building reputation. So now you know how to build reputation. The basics of it. I should maybe put out a mini series. If there's enough of a demand, if people actually watch this, put in the comments below. I would like a little mini tutorial, mini educational series on this channel on reputation building, some tips and steps and so forth. You can check it out. So there you go. I hope you found this video useful. If you're more into the coding and the programming, you can check out my other channel. I'll put the link below. 150,000 subs here. This is a brand new channel. I just launched this in February 2020. So that's it for now. Let me know what you think. Let me know if you like this format of video, this conversational style. Again, everything that I talk about, whether it be here or my tech channel, is all born out of experience because, as people know, I'm 269 years old. So after 269 years, you learn a lot.